Okay, hi everyone, this is Shu. Now today I'm speaking English instead of Chinese because we have a guest speaker, Rose, today. So I haven't done video for a while, but today is a very important day for us because Rose is very busy, and then she is my career mentor when I was in a boot camp learning coding. And then she helped me to find a job and helped a lot of students. How many students have you?
It's been, I would say maybe close to 200, over 150.
Wow.
A lot of students, yeah.
So you have been doing like this for a year or two?
It was over a year.
Over a year.
Yeah.
200 students.
Yeah, a lot of students.
And they were not software engineers before. They're just doing other professions, and then they went to boot camp, and then Rose helped them to land a job, and they're making a lot of money.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah, so it's really honored to have Rose here with me. I'm very excited. Hopefully, Rose will share a lot of good, lessons and experience with you guys. So let's get started.
Thank you for having me, first of all.
Yes, of course. Yeah, okay. So I guess the first topic students want to, my audience want to know is like, there's one student asked me about resume.
Mm-hmm.
So he probably self-studied some of the some coding,
Mm-hmm.
and then so like switching the career, status too. So how do those students can polish their resume, make it more appealing compared to those students majored in computer science or you got my question, right?
Yeah. So this is for someone who did not go through a boot camp or a structured learning program?
Yeah. So this specific case is, I think he probably self-study or go to some online courses and then
Okay.
figure out.
Okay. The big trick, the main thing that you need to have on your resume is a number of applications. So you need to be able to show them
Yeah.
that you know what you're doing.
Mhm.
So if you self-studied, it's very important to work on a few applications, at least three, to have built at least three full stack applications before you start applying for jobs,
Mhm.
and actually include those on your resume. So even if you have 10, 15 years of experience in another career, it's very important that your new career, your new software engineering resume, about 80% of that should be related to software engineering. And which means that if you don't have any actual practical experience in the field, it has to be in the form of full stack applications that you've built either by yourself or with a team. Preferably with at least one of those should be worked on with a team.
I see. So I remember at that time when we, writing our resumes, you always ask us to put those projects
Yeah.
in the main chunk of the resume. You just ask us to illustrate all those project 1, project 2, and the name of the app, right?
Yep. So you want to include the name of the app. You want to include the technologies that you use, the tech stack for the application. Another important thing to showcase, especially during interviews, you want to showcase that you know how to work in an environment with other engineers to collaborate on code to build a functional piece of software. So, which is why I recommend, again, working with, you can do some solo projects, but it's important to try to find at least one or two other people to collaborate on a project with. Yeah.
And then when we describe the application we built, is there any important things we need to keep in mind or some pitfalls we need to avoid?
So the more you can sound like a software engineer, the better. First of all, stop calling yourself a web developer. That's number one.
Oh, stop calling yourself web developer.
Stop calling yourself a web developer. Because if you have the skill set to be able to build, like, let's say, a full-scale JavaScript application, then you would call yourself a software engineer.
Okay, just call yourself fancier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
that's number one. And as far as talking about the application itself, first, it's because the wording is really important.
Yeah, you mentioned about that.
How you talk about the project will show the interviewer if you really know what you're talking about. So whatever the lingo is, they would use out in the field. Just make sure that you do tons of studying around that. Read lots of blogs. Read lots of different forums where other engineers are solving problems. And if you can also contribute to open source projects, that will familiarize you more with the lingo that they're using out in the field. And whenever you're talking about the applications that you've built, you want to first start off with what was the technical benefit. So each bullet point should start off with what was the technical benefit, what did this specific thing that I accomplished as building this application, what was the technical benefit of that, and then talk about
benefit.
Yeah, and then
Not
how
like
did you achieve that? First, what was the technical benefit, followed by how did you achieve that technical benefit?
Okay, so 2 bullet points or?
Well, no, this is 1 bullet point. This is the formula that you would use for all of the bullet points.
Okay.
Yeah.
Formula. So
Yeah.
let's slow down a little bit. There's a formula here.
Yeah.
So every bullet points you should have this format: technical benefits, and then how you achieve it.
Yep.
Can you give us example if you still remember?
It's been so long since
I know.
I've coached someone one-on-one. So if you're building an application, give me an example of something you would do. You would do when building an application.
I would do. You mean the technology?
Yeah, or something that some specific
like
thing
Redux.
That
do you remember at that time we do Redux?
What would you do with Redux?
What we do with, I think the data flow is like you don't need to call the one source and getting down all the time. You just have one central place to hold those data. So it's easier, like everyone can just call that sender instead of you have to go pass down this one and then pass down this one. You have to just go all the way, like what is it called? The hierarchical
kind of so you could say something like streamlined the calling of the data.
Yeah.
The calling of the data to XYZ, or did this to streamline the data flow, or increase the efficiency, or minimize the load time by doing this.
Yes, exactly. Or or scale up something.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the benefits, like what is the impact?
Yep.
Technical impact, not like the user experience, I guess. This is more for a product manager kind of role.
Well, you can talk about that as well, because it's of value to talk about that, to show them that you understand the user experience and that you consider the user perspective as you're building your application. Because there are tons of software engineers, they know how to build code, but it's extra value added if you consider the user, if you're intentional about building an application that focuses on the user experience.
So if you can think of anything like that, also put on there.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
And then for how to achieve that, can you give example? Like just using certain technologies you illustrated, or? Yeah,
so it can be something like facilitated streamlined user experience, or not streamlined, seamless user experience rather. Facilitated seamless user experience by using XYZ technology to simplify the UX framework.
To be more specific with the technology you're using.
Yep, okay. Exactly.
Okay, and then I remember at that time so the resume really want to focus on all the applications you build, and then you have solo project, you have team projects, right? To highlight everything. And then if you have your previous job experience, just to make it short, clean, and concise.
So your previous job experience should go at the bottom of your resume. The first thing you want them to see is a summary of the technologies that you know how to work with, followed by the things that you have built. And you can kind of switch those around, but just as long as the software engineering stuff is the first thing that they see on the resume.
To give them the first impression.
Exactly. That you know what you're doing again. That you're not a complete newbie at this and you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. Okay. That's a lot of information, very, very condensed in this short time. But definitely, I will do more texting to help students to know more about it. So let's maybe talk about another one. Is a lot of people have a question about networking. Yeah, so it's like they think it's like very awkward. For me, I think the first thing is networking. Even if in your own field, you just feel awkward to reach out to people on LinkedIn, go to a meetup to just say something. It's just very, very uncomfortable and embarrassing. And then especially when you are switching career, it's even harder. So what is your advice for that?
Yeah, so that's a good question. That's one of my favorite topics because it's one that
Favorite
it's a
topic.
question that